Well, ladies and gentlemen, I got to do a third video. I've been thinking about this over the last several days. And, Greece is now back in the spotlight. The banks there proposing a tax on cash withdrawals to combat tax evasion, of course. You got India dropping the $500 note, the $1,000 note, literally overnight. No one was prepared for that, had no idea what the hell was going on. And most of the population couldn't do anything about it and pretty much lost their money. And I'm looking at all this stuff, and it's all happening, around the same time. Again, after the U.S. elections. I don't have to worry about whoever the president is for the next 4 years. I think it's go time for the club on the economy of the world. And I mean, to do what the president of India did doesn't even make sense no matter how you look at it. You can't even come up with an argument to say, well, this is why it's going to be good. Now, you listen to what the man said. It's something like this: to combat tax evasion, to help combat terrorism, to help stop money laundering, to help stop counterfeiting, like all this stuff. None of it made sense. And then he didn't give the people any time to deal with it. So they just got, an enormous amount of money wiped off. Just might as well throw it away. So I'm just hearing all this stuff, and I can't help but to think they're getting ready to let loose, and they're putting some things in place around the world through their minions, like the minion who runs India. Trust me, it's one of the club's minions. Nobody would do such a stupid thing unless they're told to do it. And there's a reason behind it, and the reason behind it had absolutely nothing to do with the reasons he gave. Because now counterfeiting has just jumped in India. Because people realize I just lost my wealth. I'm going to get mine back. Oh, counterfeit. I'll counterfeit the $100 notes instead. And that's what's happening. So I think this is just, I just can't help feel like they're about to really start pushing things. Greek banks propose a series of measures to combat tax evasion, strengthen the electronic transactions, and limit the use of cash in the economy. One of the measures proposed is a special tax on cash withdrawals. Bankers reportedly stress that cash money can easily and largely be channeled in the black economy. Therefore, a tax on cash withdrawals will drastically reduce cash transactions and, by extension, the black economy. The bankers suggest that also credit cards and debit cards, as well as new technologies enabling contactless transactions, even for small amounts, and mobile phones can be used for the purchase of a transport ticket or a newspaper at the kiosk. This is actually the website keeptalkinggreece.com. So their English might not be fantastic, but points being made, that's all that matters. The bankers propose to the government, among others, mandatory use of cards or other electronic payment networks for every transaction with professions where there is strong evidence of tax evasion or where cash is mainly used. Like bakeries, kiosks, street vendors, and chestnut sellers, Mandatory use of cards or electronic networks for transactions above a certain amount. This measure, by the way, is already in effect. Reforming the tax system by introducing a revenue expenditure system. Households or professionals will only be taxed on the amount of income that has not yet been spent. In this way, households and professionals will have a strong incentive to seek receipts of any expenditure in order to increase their expenditure and reduce the tax amount they will have to pay. This is the equivalent of saying, we don't want you saving a dime. We want you spending out of control. You know what's interesting? Have any of you seen the movie 1980s former wrestler Roddy Piper, who's now deceased? Great guy, by the way. It was called They Live. I never saw it growing up, but I heard about it years ago and how it pertains to, his turn. He puts his glasses on and he can see what is really being shown on the billboards and the commercials. It's, you know, buy, consume, spend, buy, you know, and he can see the elitist, you know, through these glasses. But when he takes them off, it's back to normal, you know, looks like just a nice little storefront sign or whatever, because the glasses on, it's, you know, buy, consume, you know. This is what's happening. This is exactly what I just said to you. They are now telling you, don't save, because if you save, you're going to be taxed to hell and back. You need to spend so you have less income on the side that we can tax. Because if you spend it, we can't tax it. Oh, talk about a way to stimulate the economy. And you know what I'd do? I'd pull a JSNP 4 to the 10th power. You know what that is? Let me tell you. Let me tell you what that is. Oh, you want me to spend? You want me to spend and not save? Okay. I'll spend. Let me go buy some more precious metals. Oh, I didn't spend enough. You're going to tax me hard? Oh, let me go buy some more. And I'll buy some more. And I'll buy some more. That's how I'd play that game. Next thing they want, obligation for all businesses, regardless of their size, to pay electronically every salary and wage. You're not getting cash, you're not getting tips, you are getting paid through electronic means. I cannot say whom came up with this revolutionary idea, some genius young academics or the Greek bankers themselves, those over 60 who have their secretaries or their kids doing their transactions for them using their own iPhones and iPads. I have no idea whether they have asked the country's creditors to reform the tax system in a cashless, more incentives Greek world, where households will be obliged to use revenue expenditure books. I absolutely do not understand how can one sleek and glossy group of bankers propose such measures and rule the economic system of a country where some 30% of the population lives or is at risk of poverty. The welfare system has collapsed and thousands of families live on the 20 or 50 euro banknote a relative or a friend, secretary, secretly stick in their pocket so that they buy some food, medicine, or pay a small bill. In other words, here's a 20, here's a 50, you know, and I know you need some help. Not to mention those over 60 with minimum knowledge of electronic devices and applications, and those over 80 who can't even use a mobile phone. I'll say it for the 500 millionth time. This is why it's important to have precious metals in your possession. Not paper, not stored somewhere else, in your possession. Because where this road leads us ain't good. Okay? That's why I do these videos. I want to keep people informed. Take care.